willful ignorance or selective vision, blind spots as large as the Earth itself. Astrophysicist Hubert Reeves has words for it. Man is the most insane species. He worships an invisible God and destroys a visible nature, unaware that this nature he's destroying is the God he is worshiping. There is an irony in looking to conquer another planet in the galaxy while we are destroying life here on planet Earth.
Cry and cover up your face. I don't want to watch you die. So listen up and start to fly. Live in a daydream where angels lie weary-eyed.
A common fantasy in sci-fi movies is that when humanity is attacked by an outside force, we dispense with our differences and band together to fight the enemy. But when that force is our collective behavior, the enemy can't simply be defined. We are in desperate need of commonality, which we will find only through constant education, not by relying on governments for answers. We are aware of the causes of rapid climate change, but greed and the lack of unified, committed global engagement to fix it has hamstrung us all. And now we are choking on that greed. It is at once familiar, yet bizarre. It took billions of years for life to evolve from energy to simple matter and gradually into complexity, from a single cell to an organism with complex cells, which exploded into the intelligent life that we have today.
Hello? Do you copy me? What do you see from up there? Hello?
I see quite a mess. The atmosphere is a layer of gases including water, carbon dioxide, methane, ozone, and nitrous oxide. These gases trap heat and are called greenhouse gases.
Solar radiation reaches the atmosphere. Some of the radiation is reflected back. The rest of the sun's energy is absorbed by land and oceans. Heat radiates from Earth back to space. However, burning fossil fuels, destroying rainforests, and using human-made chemicals create excess gases in the atmosphere that trap more and more heat, causing the Earth's temperature to rise. This is known as the greenhouse effect.
These are the transnational oil companies causing climate change, contaminating the Earth and atmosphere on a catastrophic scale, with emissions of methane, carbon dioxide, benzene, nitrous oxide, amongst other toxic chemicals. These companies extract oil, natural gas, and coal from all over the world. They are also the founders of the climate denial movement, promoting the idea that a transition to a new energy is not imperative. If only we understood all the misinformation we're being fed to keep us ignorant. This is what we have to understand. The companies do this because they make tons of money and gain power. And that money and power gets illicitly passed to governments. Now, these companies continue to increase the greenhouse effect that is warming our planet and raising our seas, with full cooperation and even subsidies from governments worldwide. Now, with all their money, they should be cleaning their shit. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, with all their money, they should be cleaning their shit and investigate alternative ways to packaging and production that don't add shit to the planet. Oh, and by the way, Miami is built on limestone, a highly porous rock. And when the water rises, it won't matter if there's a wall to stop it from flooding over the land, because it will come from underneath.
Americans drank 6.3 billion gallons of beer last year, 50% in cans. Most of the plastic six-pack rings used end up in the ocean. Around the world, an estimate of 1 million mammals and 100,000 seabirds and sea turtles are entrapped in plastic or ingest it and die. Saltwater Brewery is a company in Delray Beach, Florida, which developed a six-pack ring with 100% biodegradable and edible material that replaces plastic made of barley and wheat, remnants from the brewery process.
These are just the top 10 out of hundreds of multinational companies that most contaminate our waters, our land, our food with plastics. Now, when these plastics disintegrate, they even enter the air we breathe. Plastic particles are found as high as the Himalayas, where air was thought to be the purest.
These are not ads. None of the companies featured here are sponsors. The innovative people behind these ideas are trying to change the way we do everyday things to help save the planet. That's why they're here on my TV and always on my mind. Skipping Rock Lab is a company in London that has developed an innovative manufacturing process that encapsulates water or any kind of liquid in a membrane made of seaweed. Seaweed is rich in vitamins and minerals and helps deacidify the oceans. The capsules are called Ojos. The goal for them is to reduce plastic waste and make plastic packaging disappear. This natural product is fully degradable and edible. It degrades in 4 to 6 weeks, leaving no waste behind. Think of festivals, marathons, and people on the streets.
The Venezuela rainforest is at the floodgates of an environmental apocalypse. Many countries are involved in its rapid, ferocious destruction and desertification. Venezuela's military and government own private companies that exploit the land for gold. China extracts gold and coltan and metal used in electronic devices. This is an illegal mining site in the Venezuela rainforest. The forest has been stripped, and water pressure and mercury, a highly poisonous metal, are being used to extract gold. The rainforest grows on a thin layer of nutrients, which has been built up over thousands of years. Beneath that layer is sand. This type of deforestation creates deserts. Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, Central America, Cote d'Ivoire, Indonesia, Laos, Madagascar, Mexico, Nigeria, Philippines, Thailand are also allowing their rainforests to be destroyed for mining, agriculture, logging, fuelwood, and cattle ranches, suffocating the green lungs of the earth and increasing carbon dioxide in the air. And this degradation is supported by even the most unlikely seeming countries. For example, the Netherlands is one of the world's leading nations for environmental sustainability practices inside its own borders, and yet its joint venture with Brazil to create infrastructure for transporting soya and other commodities poses major risks to the Amazon rainforest. Norway has one of the most efficient recycling programs in the world, and in 2016 was awarded the Gold Standard Setter Award by the Rainforest Alliance. The country pledged $445 million a year to help save the world's tropical forests and give $77 million to the Amazon Fund. Yet in 2018, the Norwegian energy and aluminum company Norsk Hydro poisoned the water in Para, Brazil with multiple toxic chemicals from its aluminum plant, and no one has been able to hold accountable by the Norwegian government. It is hypocrisies such as these that are killing our planet. We are standing in a burning house. While our left hand sprinkles the water, our right hand pours kerosene.
Our world is on the verge of destruction. with human-induced environmental disasters affecting the Earth. It feels sometimes as though we're living in a sci-fi film. Everything about this new world is unpredictable. Tornadoes that appear out of the blue, earthquakes from fracking, the displacement of people by water rising over their land, frequent wildfires, spring and winter, and snow in summer. We are aware of the causes of rapid climate change. Antarctica is a polar desert, and it's protected by the Antarctic Treaty, which prohibits nuclear explosions, military mining, and nuclear waste disposal, supports scientific research, and protects the continent's ecozone. This is the location of Antarctica on the planet. About 99% of Antarctica is covered with ice. On the lower left, you can see the tip of South America. Antarctica is huge compared to the United States. This is Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the highest building on Earth. This is Burj Khalifa juxtaposed to the average thickness of Antarctica. And this is the maximum known depth of the sheet of Antarctica, and the Burj Khalifa looks like a dwarf. Antarctica is divided into the east, which has the highest average elevation of any continent on Earth, and the west. If the west was to melt, water would rise 3.2 meters or 9.8 feet high. If the east of Antarctica was to melt, water would rise 60 meters or 200 feet because those are the highest mountains in the deepest depths below the sea level of ice.
In 2010, BP petroleum oil rig exploded and more than 200 million gallons of oil littered the Gulf of Mexico, becoming the largest environmental disaster in marine history. A similar incident occurred in a BP-owned rig in the Caspian Sea in 2008. The offshore drilling explosion damaged the shorelines of Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana. The mess is not gone. Gulf Coast ecosystems still have not fully recovered.
On December 1984, about 30 tons of toxic gases leaked over Bhopal, a city in India, from a pesticide factory owned by Union Carbide. In this industrial disaster, 2,259 people died in the immediate aftermath. Over the years, however, an estimated 20,000 people were killed as a result of exposure to the toxic gas. The next generation of children were born with brain damage and musculoskeletal disorders.
Nuclear energy is terrifyingly dangerous, and those with control over it, which is the nuclear power industry, have lied to the people in the past. Cleaner fuels do not carry the same risk levels as carbon and nuclear fuels. Nuclear energy is called clean, but it's not. Nuclear power combined with rising waters, tsunamis, earthquakes, human error, and more have the world locked in a colossal game of Russian roulette. Companies as well as governments maintain a fictitious narrative and a blind eye while they rack in obscene wealth and prevent transition to cleaner energy. In 1945, Albert Stevens was injected with plutonium without his knowledge. As part of the Manhattan Project, he and 18 other people between the ages of 4 and 69 unwittingly participated in a U.S. government-funded human radiation experiment. They were chosen because they had been diagnosed with terminal diseases.
The nuclear age began in July of 1945, with the first atomic bomb detonated at the Trinity site near Alamogordo, New Mexico. The incredible heat generated by the bomb turned the sand into green glass, which is now called trinitite. A month later, in August, a second atomic bomb was detonated in Hiroshima. 3 days later, the third atomic bomb was dropped in Nagasaki. These were the first warfare bombs to contain plutonium and uranium. These metal elements are highly dangerous. They generate radiation that damages DNA and causes, among other effects, many types of cancer. Both metals are now also used in other nuclear weapons. And plutonium is used to produce electricity in nuclear power plants. Canada is the world's largest producer and exporter of uranium. These are the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Ocean, and here, Bikini Atoll Lagoon. Between 1946 and 1958, during the Cold War, in a nuclear arms race with the Soviet Union, the United States detonated 23 nuclear weapons.
Nearly time now for the bomb drop. A naval craft miles away, a wise precaution. This is the first controlled and fully observed test of an atomic weapon dropped on a military target. The bombs dropped on Japan had ended the war, but we still lacked scientific information on blast pressure, heat, light, and radioactivity.
H minus 10 seconds.
After 4 days of nuclear testing the Bikini Atoll,
9.
French designer Louis Réard
8.
introduced a small two-piece swimsuit
7.
and called it
6.
the Bikini
5.
for shock value.
4.
Remarkably, the Bikini caused more public panic
3.
than the nuclear tests that destroyed the area
2.
and forever displaced
1.
and desecrated its people.
0.
Yes, life is simple and beautiful on Bikini Atoll. Until today, February 3rd, 1946, when there enters into Bikini Lagoon a fateful thing, a grim, huge symbol of civilization in its most terrifying form. Arriving is Commodore Ben H. Wyatt, United States Navy, with a startling request. Will the people of Bikini abandon their paradise so that the United States can use it for a certain experiment with the fantastic, the incredible thing called the atomic bomb?
While the bombing was heralded with pride, Pope Pius XII declared the bikini bathing suit sinful. It was banned in Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Austria. After generations, we are left with fashionable bathing bikinis, and Bikini Atoll faces oblivion. In 1954, a thermonuclear bomb was detonated in the Bikini Atoll, and by a scientific miscalculation, the bomb was 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II.
It's the motion picture spectacle of all time.
My grandfather died of brain cancer. Brain cancer is rare, yet I started to notice over the years that my mother mentioned numerous people she knew who'd also died of brain cancer, some of them pretty young. And these were all people from the same area in Connecticut where we lived, which is near the nuclear subbase and the Millstone nuclear power plant. At some point, I noted this to Mom, and she said, "Yes, there's a cancer cluster in this area. We don't know."
They may look like craters on the moon, but no, this is the Nevada test site, about 65 miles north of Las Vegas, where scientists conducted hundreds of above and below ground nuclear tests from 1951 until 1992. This is the Sedan crater, the largest human-made crater in the world, and the result of a thermonuclear explosion in 1962 at the Nevada test site.
This is the valley where the giant mushrooms grow. Little bomb, big bomb, low burst, and high burst. Nevada, USA. More atomic bombs have been exploded on these few hundred square miles of desert than on any other spot on the globe.
Its blast waves were equivalent to an earthquake of 4.75 on the Richter scale. During the 1950s, the city of Las Vegas experienced noticeable seismic effects, and the mushroom clouds could be seen from downtown hotels almost 100 miles away. These views became tourist attractions. Westerly winds carried the test's radioactive particles directly through St. George and increased leukemia, lymphoma, thyroid cancer, breast cancer, melanoma, bone cancer, brain tumors, and gastrointestinal tract cancers were reported from the mid-1950s through the 1980s.
This close-up view was taken from a ground station 3 miles from ground zero. The dome rose to a height of 290 feet before it vented at 3 seconds.
The Nevada test site underwent 928 nuclear explosions. To this day, it is still used for underground subcritical nuclear tests that supposedly do not generate nuclear reactions.
In 1956, scenes for the film The Conqueror, with actors John Wayne and Susan Hayward, were shot 137 miles from St. George, Utah, which was downwind from the Nevada test site nuclear explosion. The filmmakers knew about the site, but the federal government assured residents that the tests were not a public health hazard. Between the 1960s and 1970s, after 13 weeks of filming on radioactive terrain, director Dick Powell, Susan Hayward, and John Wayne, along with numerous other cast and crew members, had died of cancer. By the end of 1980, of the 220 cast and crew members, 91 had developed cancer, and 46 had died of the disease. Relatives and friends who had visited this film set were also afflicted. These numbers do not include Native American, Paiute extras on the film, many of whom also died of cancer.
Leukemia. lymphoma, melanoma, thyroid cancer, bone cancer, brain tumors.
Cryosphere is the frozen water part of the Earth's climate system, and it's extremely important because snow and ice reflect heat from the sun, helping to regulate our planet's temperature. Water levels will rise not only from melting of Antarctica's east or the west, but also from glaciers, ice caps, ice sheets, sea ice, and permafrost. The Earth is warming in response to human-caused emissions of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane. So, what would happen if the planet's ice starts to melt? Permafrost is ground that contains rich deposits of carbon from plant and organic matter that has accumulated for a long time, sometimes up to more than 500,000 years. Cold slows decomposition, but when the soil warms up, organic matter decays and carbon, in the form of methane and carbon dioxide, gets released into the atmosphere, increasing greenhouse gases.
Climate change is usually such a negative story and it weighs heavy on us. And that's true, we really have to shift gears. Our backs are against the wall, but it creates these opportunities. This is our chance to adapt, to adjust, and be creative. We need to build a new economy, not an old economy that is extractive, that destroys the earth. This is the future of environmentalism. I was at the height of industrial fishing, and it was clear to us that it wasn't sustainable. So I went on this search for sustainability. And I see my life as a sort of an arc of ecological redemption. As a commercial fisherman, pillaging the seas, and now as an ocean farmer years later. When I started my journey for sustainability, aquaculture was supposed to be the answer to overfishing, but instead it was just as destructive. We were packing fish full of antibiotics, using pesticides. We used to say we were growing neither fish nor food. Ocean farming is like underwater gardening. We grow our kelp down vertically, our mussels, our scallops, and then below that system we have small cages with oysters in them, and then down in the mud we have our clams. The crops we grow sequester 5 times more carbon than land-based plants. Kelp is used for biofuel. If you were to take a network of our farms totaling half the size of the state of Maine, you could replace all the oil in the U.S. If you were to take a network of our farms totaling the size of Washington State, you could feed the world. We can feed cattle, for example, a majority diet of kelp, and you get up to an 80% reduction in methane output. Our oysters filter up to 50 gallons of water a day, pulling nitrogen out of the water column. And too much nitrogen is one of the causes of the dead zones that are spreading throughout our globe. Our kelp soaks up 5 times more carbon than land-based plants. We're climate farmers, helping restore our seas, mitigate climate change while also growing good, delicious, beautiful food. Our farms as a whole create artificial reefs. This is the future of environmentalism. It's about restoration, but not only of the oceans, also restoration of the community, lifting people out of poverty, making sure there's a future for young people. That's what we're a part of. It's a whole movement to build a new economy in the era of climate change, and I really want you to join us.